Want to welcome you guys back to another episode of Pistons Talk Podcast presented by FanDuel. Man, what a game. What a game. We are going to get into it with tonight's post-game playoff podcast, you guys. I do apologize that I did have to push this back at 11:30. I'll explain to you guys why we're starting at 11:30 versus 10:30. So I had the opportunity to actually interview Duncan Robinson with the Fans View app, which shout out to them. We did talk for about 10 minutes. It was a lot of fun. It should be out pretty soon, either tonight or early morning. I can't wait to share the interview with you guys. And shout out to Duncan for doing the interview. And happy birthday. Did not get to wish him happy birthday on the very short interview. Hope he had a great birthday and had a great game. But let's get into these post-game podcast notes, and then we'll open up the show to Q&A like we usually do. But let's get to it, you guys. Let's get to it. So, start the first quarter, man. Like, shout out to Cade. Came out really aggressive. Had 9 points to lead the Pistons in scoring. But I think what I really appreciated with the Pistons tonight in the first quarter is they came out to play as soon as that ball was tipped. Game one, they didn't. The Magic came out as the aggressors. I really liked the defensive rotations by the Detroit Pistons in this one. It probably could have been a blowout earlier on. I mean, Orlando only shot 27% from the field, you guys. But we just had way too many turnovers in the first quarter. We had 8 turnovers, and Orlando was able to kind of just keep within range in the first quarter, and they kept crashing. There we go. It didn't want to come out. The offensive glass in the first as well. They had 7 offensive rebounds. But after one, the Pistons did have a 4-point lead, 25-21. I think if you don't turn the ball over 8 times and you don't let Orlando get 7 extra possessions, you probably have a pretty sustainable lead after one. But going into the second quarter, the Pistons do kind of go on a 9-0 run that started at the end of the first quarter and carried over to the second quarter with Cade Cunningham on the bench, by the way. So it was led by Danish, Jenkins in the second unit, and Karis LeVert, Isaiah Stewart, all those guys out there. And just the defensive rotations early on against the Magic, it was beautiful, man. Like, that's the defense that I think we all saw this year. There's a reason why the Pistons were ranked the second best defense in the NBA. But they really forced Orlando to take a lot of tough shots. It was unfortunate Asar Thompson did pick up his 3rd foul. Duncan did too late in the second quarter. The Magic did get to the free throw line a lot to kind of keep this game within reach. I thought the free throw discrepancy in the first half was honestly crazy. I think the Pistons had a whopping maybe 4 attempts after 24 minutes, and the Magic were just getting to the line every type of foul you could think of, just like marginal contact, which I don't know. The officials tonight were Ed Malloy and Tyler Ford. They're not the most consistent officials, but after 24 minutes of play, all even, 46 apiece going into half. Third quarter happens. Holy crap. That was the best third quarter I've seen this season. Maybe almost as great as, I don't know if you guys remember in the regular season when we were down 20 versus Atlanta and we came back to tie the game. Like, it was very similar to that third quarter in terms of, like, the Pistons just came out on an 8-0 run. Then that 8-0 run became like a 23-3 run. And the ball movement and the cutting was excellent. And just the execution out of the half court. They were moving the ball. They were having fun. And Detroit just exploded, took a lead. Cade Cunningham was huge. Duncan Robinson was hitting 3-point shots, floaters. Jalen Duren started getting going a little bit. Tobias Harris was hitting some mid-range shots and also being effective for the Pistons. But they take an 84-62 lead after 3 quarters of play. You play that way in the third quarter for a full 48, like, this will be no contest whatsoever. You will probably beat the Magic in 5. It'll be interesting to see what happens game 3 on Saturday at 1 p.m. The scheduling's been really weird for this first round. Usually it's like every other day. It will go to every other day after game 3 is concluded, but it's still a lot of time off between now and Saturday. But hell of a quarter by the Pistons. I think that's what won them that game was that third quarter. Fourth quarter, Cade and the Pistons just did a good job of keeping their foot on the gas pedal. I know it was a 27-point lead at one point, but they were still able to keep this game well out of reach for Orlando. And I think Orlando knew it too. They knew that they weren't going to be able to get back on this game. Now, if this was a good three-point shooting team, you might be worried, but this is actually a very terrible three-point shooting team. They rely on a lot of points in the paint and mid-range jump shots, and they just weren't able to crack the Pistons defense in the second half. But the second half was great. Like, you play that way the rest of this quarter, you will be advancing in the second round. But Pistons win 98-83. First home playoff win, you guys, in 18 years. Last time they won a home playoff game was in 2008. I was a freshman in high school. We played the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. So, yeah, it's been a minute since the Detroit Pistons have won a home playoff game, and I think we could celebrate the little wins, right? Obviously, we want to advance and get into the second round and see who we play, but you can celebrate a home playoff win. Really proud of the Pistons that they were able to, knock the series up, because I think a lot of conversations would have been very uncomfortable from a national perspective. And just all across the NBA, like, people nationally were ready to just drop the hammer on the Pistons if they did not win this game. I'm glad they did, but I don't think JB Bickerstaff or the Detroit Pistons give two shits about national perception, and that's exactly what JB said. It's like, I don't give a shit what people say about me, and I absolutely love that response by him. I saw our guy Eric Vincent post the video. Pretty sure Sean Windsor from the Detroit Free Press asked that question, but shout out to the Pistons, shout out to JB, shout out to everyone on the squad tonight. Hell of a win for the Detroit Pistons in this one, you guys. But I do want to get into the Q&A with you guys. I see a lot of you guys dropping comments right now. I appreciate you guys watching live on YouTube right now. Before we do get into the Q&A, if we look at this game with the FanDuel odds, the Pistons were an 8.5-point favorite. And I was kind of surprised given like how close game one was. But if you hit that bet tonight, you're laughing to the bank because they won by 18. But 8.5. I'll be interested to see what the spread is for game 3 against the Magic on Saturday. But let's get into the Q&A. Let's talk about this game with you guys. But let's go. So, Marquez, at least Kuka Hill won't bust a blood vessel, like he said during your guys' podcast. Great response by the Pistons. Shout out to Koo. Shout out to Locked On Pistons. Really good podcast. If you guys do listen to it, go support him if you're not already. I'm assuming you guys do. But, yeah, the conversation I had with Koo, he said he would pop a blood vessel. I'm pretty sure it was about the Asar conversation that we had. I kind of rage baited him into that conversation because I wanted to see like how crazy he was going to go. I'm not bad for doing that. But I wanted to kind of see like where his head was at with the, game one and the Asar minutes. Obviously, Asar was in foul trouble tonight, but he still did play pretty consistent minutes in this one. But I'm glad the Pistons did respond. I'm glad that they were able to knock the series up one apiece. Let's go play that motherfucking song. I saw, shout out to G-Mac Cash, by the way. I do follow him on social media. I followed him on Instagram, and I was scrolling after we did win the game. And apparently he commented, play this song on Angel Reese's Instagram, and she blocked him. Like, that's just some soft shit. I can't believe she blocked him for that. But yeah, play the song. Play the Pistons win again. Shout out to G-Mac Cash, man. That song is so catchy. Hopefully we're playing that song a lot during these NBA playoffs. Red Baron, that third quarter was absolutely incredible. Save it for the NBA archives. I got to keep it up to start game 3. Hope Tobias is okay. That looked really bad. He did have a little bit of a fall, which was, I was concerned. There are a couple of Pistons that, were kind of hobbling. That play on Jalen Duren where Wendell Carter got a flagrant one. He kind of elbowed him in the back. That was kind of concerning. I was like, I hope Duren's okay, but Tobias did look like he was in a little bit of pain there. But it'll be interested to see what does happen um, with just how they respond in game 3, right? Like if they play the way they did in the third quarter, Red Baron, I don't really think Pistons fans have anything to worry about. If you're locking up defensively, you're making stops, you have transition opportunities, you have pick and roll opportunities, you're moving off ball, you're making backdoor cuts. I think this will be a first round series that a lot of us will be very happy with and will advance into the second round. But again, it'll be interesting to see how we respond in Orlando. Piston Fan 11, as Rashid said, put it on the front page, back page, headline, column, headers. Tell all your friends on MySpace, we will win game 2. Shout to MySpace, man. I'm showing my age. I had a MySpace. I had a top 8 friends. Pistons Fan 11. You're making me go down memory lane. Yeah, it's probably the last time the Pistons did win a home playoff game. MySpace was actually probably popular. I bet you like it. I don't even think Instagram was out yet. I think it was just a photography app before it became a social media juggernaut. But yeah, I saw a lot of Pistons fans post that video of we will win game 2, and they did. Very similar to last year's playoffs. They won game 2 against the Knicks and knotted up the series at 1. But I love that Pistons fans use old references, like Rasheed Wallace saying, the Pacers will not win game 2, and they didn't. I'm gonna have to watch that playoff series again because it was a lot of fun. We got Phil Sickey. Duren has to stop bringing the ball up the breaks. I've had enough. Give it up. Go to the stop. Yeah, there was a possession where I think it bounced off Wendell Carter's foot, I believe. And it was just a situation where Wendell got the ball and it was a fast break opportunity. I know JB has always told these guys, like, wants to give them the kind of like the freedom to continue on playing and continue, bringing the ball up the court. I know a lot of fans would rather see a guard or even like a SAR for that matter bring the ball up the court. You don't really want to see your center bring the ball up the court. I think in the playoffs, I'd rather see Cade or whoever the secondary primary ball handler is out there bring the ball up the court. It's kind of nitpicky, but I can understand like you don't want to see Duren bring the ball up the court because it could be a turnover as well. Also have a couple more comments about first playoff win in Little Caesars Arena. Yeah, Pistons actually won the first playoff series in LCA. Obviously, the Red Wings have not made the playoffs because they've just been going through a 10-year rebuild, it seems like. But yeah, first playoff win inside Little Caesars Arena. I believe the Pistons have had 3 playoff series. They had one against the Bucks when Blake was playing on one knee. I'm sure you guys remember that. That was a sweep. Had one last year against the New York Knicks. Obviously, we didn't win a home playoff game, but for whatever reason, we kept winning games on the road against the Knicks and made it a series. And then tonight, we're game 2, we get our first home playoff win. So that's another accomplishment that this team can celebrate. I feel like they've had so many accomplishments throughout the year. Like when they won 50 games, that was an accomplishment. When you had Cade Cunningham winning Eastern Conference Player of the Month, when you had a Sar Thompson winning Defensive Player of the Month, Isaiah Stewart winning Defensive Player of the Month, JB Bickerstaff getting 100 wins in his first 2 seasons as a Detroit Pistons head coach, 3rd fastest coach in Pistons history to do that. There's just been so many little small victories that this organization and this team has accomplished in 2 very short years. And I think as a Piston fan, you're extremely happy because the rebuild years were very tough. I think a lot of us, we stayed up for games. I know we have international fans that stay up for games. Like I see Camille in the live chat right now asking about Danish Jenkins. We'll kind of get into that. But I know, he watches Pistons games very late. He's international. We have a lot of international fans all throughout the world that stay up to watch these Pistons games, even during the rebuild. And I was one of them. Obviously, I'm not international. I live in Michigan, but, we stayed up for those West Coast trips. We were doing mock drafts, it seems like, after the first week of the season because we knew that we weren't going to do anything. But I have not looked at a mock draft in all this year, in like 2 years. It's been weird. It's been weird to get used to because this is actually a pretty good draft class, but Pistons aren't going to have a lottery pick, I don't think, unless Trajan wants to trade up for somebody like late lottery. But they have a late first round pick. But there's just been so many like small victories with this organization, and I really do appreciate it for sure. But let's get into a couple more comments and questions with you guys. Um, we got Brian in motion. I've been seeing a lot of people hating on Danis lately. Me personally, I think he's been giving great effort despite his shooting woes, but overall great win for the Pistons. I do want to kind of get into the Danis conversation because I think it is worth having. I did see Camille actually talk about Danis as well. When I've watched him play this year, and this is just my opinion, you guys might have a different opinion, and uh, I implore you guys to comment if you do have a different opinion about Danis. I think he is a good basketball player, but I don't think he's a point guard. I think he's more of a scoring guard. And game one, we saw him out there sharing the backcourt with Cade. And, JB said when he was talking to the media that he wanted to have another ball handler out there with Cade. So it wasn't solely on Cade, right? And tonight, like he did struggle again. And this is what I think when I'm watching Danis. I think Danis is a rhythm scorer. What I mean by that, Danis needs a lot of reps to kind of get into a flow. Now, if you give him 7 shots, he might go 1 for 7 and only have 3 points. Some players are just like that. Some players, they need, they're good like 12 to 15 touches a night to kind of get into a rhythm. I think he's still figuring it out on the fly. You have to remember he went from being the backup point guard, Cade's hurt, let me get 35 minutes a night, get all the first rep touches. And oh, yeah, by the way, Cade's back, go back to the bench unit and be the backup point guard. That has to be really hard mentally to adjust to saying, okay, I'm getting 35 minutes a night. I'm getting all the shots. I have to facilitate everything for my teammates and set everything up to, oh, yeah, by the way, you're going to be the backup point guard now. And we're going to maybe play you with Cade and see how you operate on less touches. And you're probably going to be out of rhythm. Like it's very difficult, I think, for him to kind of get into a flow offensively. Obviously, we've had games like the Washington game where he played pretty well, the Cavs game in the regular season where he could miss from 3, but I think it's just an adjustment period for him. I do see some Pistons fans upset that he's kind of gone back to how he was when Cade was in the lineup. I think it's just a rhythm thing as well, and also have to understand like this is his first playoffs as well. It's his first season. It's his rookie season, mind you. So I don't really count what like he got last year, like really late season. To me, I'm going to count this as his rookie season, but I think he can get better. I think there are areas for him to improve, Brian. Um, the only like nitpicky thing I will have with Davis is I do not like the over dribbling. I think the over dribbling does kind of ruin the flow of the offense in half court sets. I'd like to see him pass the ball or move the ball if he doesn't have the mismatch or the look that he's looking for. I mean, that's the only thing I could kind of nitpick on. But personally, I do think he will get better as the series does go on. So it'll be interesting to see what does happen with Danis in Game 3 and the rest of these Eastern Conference playoffs. So Cabell says, hey, Anthony, Detroit really couldn't get Duren involved in the game either. How do you think they will make that, or how do you think they can make that happen? So I think with Orlando's game plan, they're trying to negate all the paint touches that Duren does get. If you guys remember during the regular season, it was a lot of dribble drives and self creation by Duren. Catching the ball like 12 to 15 feet. I think how JB Bickerstaff and the Pistons can get Duren a little bit more involved is get him touches early. Try running some dribble handoff sets with him. Try running a little bit more pick and rolls with him and Cade Cunningham. And for Duren, I think how he can get involved as well is like if he does have a dribble drive, make sure that you're looking at your options, looking at backdoor cuts, whether it's a Sar or Duncan, making sure you're looking, you know, with a corner three, maybe it's Duncan, maybe it's Cade or whoever it may be. I think with Duren, what I'd like to see from him is making the correct reads and not focusing so much on scoring. I saw that again by him tonight, where he was just focusing on scoring and not really paying attention to like his teammates on his left and his right side, or even at the top of the key. And it's a learning process for him too. You know, he's 22 years old. Obviously, we understand that. I think he will get better, but it's just a situation with Jalen Duren right now where I don't know if he's a little bit like sped up, or maybe it's just the matchup with Wendell Carter, which I think he should completely dominate Carter, because Wendell Carter's not like that. I think Duren should easily be averaging a good like 16 and 12 against Wendell Carter. It's a fine player, but Duren should match him and outstrength him in physicality. But I honestly think that he will have a better game in game 3. He's just got to do a better job of making the correct reads and making Orlando pay, because if they want to throw 2-3 bodies at him and he's throwing, skip passes, or, finding backdoor cuts, or, someone open for 3, Orlando cannot keep packing the paint. They're going to have to close out on the Pistons 3-point shooters, and they're cutting. But it'll be interesting to see how he does kind of bounce back with game 3. Cade was really undercovering, resting. Told you, crazy Pistons fans. I don't really think he was undercover resting, Marcus. He had pneumothorax, which is a collapsed lung. I think some Pistons fans have to understand Cade is like a 1% athlete, right? Like most normal people with a collapsed lung, they would still be recovering. Cade's in phenomenal shape. He's healthy, takes care of his body. He was able to come back because he's just a top 1% athlete. I don't think he was, resting. I really do think he had a collapsed lung and he couldn't play. I saw some crazy people on TikTok saying he was faking the injury just to get rest. Like, you can't fake a collapsed lung, you guys. You can't. You just can't. The Pistons medical staff was going to clear him when he was medically cleared. That's why he played the last 3 games, but he worked his ass off to come back. So more props to him. And, he's going to make an all-NBA team because the NBA decided to, award him playing 64 games. So you're going to have Cade Cunningham, probably first team all-NBA. I really think the Magic is a hard matchup with their defense. Good thing the Pistons defense showed superior today. Still, I am not counting the Magic out, but as long as we play our defense, we're good. I think it's that, Ava, but I also think the Pistons were just more focused in game 2 than they were game 1. I really don't think when they came out in game 1, they were fully locked in. And, could it be them not playing for a week, and the Magic have played up to that point? I think it was like, 3 games in like 5-6 days. Maybe they were a little bit more fresh. I think what you saw tonight defensively is like what they're capable of when they're, having their A game of just rotating defensively, switching, locking down opposing teams like the Magic. But I think the Pistons' opportunity in transition, to me, when they make stops, could really open up this series. You saw it in the third quarter. Like when they make stops and they get out and run and have transition opportunities, they're a very hard basketball team to beat. Well, let's get into a couple more post-game podcasts. Why haven't you been going to games? That is a good question. The reason why I don't go to too many games is because I like to do these post-game podcasts with you. Obviously, you guys know we have a podcast on the Believe Network. It's not to say that I couldn't go to a games and do a post-game podcast. It's just I do more than just host this podcast. We have a whole following across social media. Like this is on YouTube, we're on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, editing clips. You see how much content that we do post throughout the year. Most nights I'm usually going to bed around 2 to 4 in the morning, depending on how late the game is. West Coast trip, sometimes 5, 6 in the morning. It's not that I don't want to go to games. I'd love to go to games if I could. It's just a thing where I just don't have the time to, go to a game, come home, do a podcast, and do all these social media posts that I do because this is my full-time job, right? Um, it's just a situation where I'm committed to the podcast. I'm committed to making content for you guys as a full-time job. But I did go to the last home game, which was a lot of fun. Pistons invited me out there. But I really enjoyed just doing these podcasts with you guys at the end of the day. So I do want to get to Sean Don through and three's question. How do you feel about Paul Reed getting some burn this series? I think he could be very useful. Um, I was kind of confused why he didn't play in game one, considering that defensively we didn't play the best, Sean Don. I'd like to see Paul Reed in instances where maybe Jalen Duren isn't bringing his A game, maybe Stu's in foul trouble or whatever it may be, because I think Paul Reed is a different type of center than Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren. I love Paul Reed's versatility when he comes off the bench because he's blitzing the pick and roll. He's handsy. He gets steals. He's got a very unorthodox style, which makes him very unpredictable for opposing teams. I'd love to see Paul Reed get more minutes than he got tonight. I think he got 1 minute, and Pistons fans are saying we want Paul Reed, like we want B-ball Paul. But he's such a versatile player on this team, right? Like you'd love to give him more minutes if you can, but at the end of the day, it's probably easier said than done when you're trying to juggle just a crazy rotation. But like, if we do get down in the series and we need a different body to throw at Franz or a different body to throw at Paulo Banchero, maybe Paul Reed can kind of disrupt them when they have the ball at the top of the key and he's looking for, those deflections, those steals. But I don't know if JB is going to be playing him too much in this first round series. But I do see a couple more questions, or just more comments. Piston fan 11, Anthony is loyal to choose hanging out with us over Pistons games. Ben Foe, remember when you first started? Shout out to Ben, man. Ben's been an OG subscriber since day one. I still remember him telling me the Pistons draft Killian Hayes over Tyrese Halliburton. They'll make a mistake. Ben was right. Ben was right. I know Ben actually came on a podcast with me like 5-6 years ago when I first started my YouTube channel, which seems so long ago. Seems so long ago. The COVID season is just a blur to me, but it's pretty cool to still see you guys come in and watch these podcasts, throughout the years. I'd like to think that I've grown as a podcaster. I'd like to think I've grown as just like a content creator with you guys. And at the end of the day, like I'll keep doing this for as long as I can. Like I'll probably be doing this in my 60s or 50s. I really don't care. Like I just love talking Detroit Pistons basketball. And it does help when they are better. It does help when they are better and they're winning games and in the playoffs. But I do want to wrap up this podcast because I do have some things that I do want to take care of. Obviously, we got to do some social media posts. I have to edit this audio, throw it up on our podcast platforms. If you guys listen to that on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we appreciate you guys as well. If you guys want to tap on in with a live stream, definitely do that. We are doing another live stream this week, you guys. Friday, we're going to be joined by our guy, Sean Murphy, credential NBA media member. He agreed to come on with me like he always does, and love Sean. I'm sure we'll have a very enjoyable podcast talking about this playoff series and what to expect maybe game 3. But we will talk to you guys very soon. Hope you guys are having a great rest of your week. As always, go Pistons. Peace.